Hefty Seed Company is proud to sponsor today's Weed of the Week. At Hefty's, you'll always get a great price and solid agronomy information.
We're Hefty's, and we're big on the farm.
Our weed of the week is cattails.
Well, Brian, cattails is one of those weeds we really have enjoyed talking about the last few years because where it is found in the fields is in the wet areas. And a lot of times when we're talking about farm ground and we've got a little bit of a wet area in a field, we like to deal with that with drainage tile. And it's amazing to me, Brian, when we put drainage tile in and we get those areas to properly drain so water doesn't sit for an extra couple of days after a rain, the cattails go away too.
Yeah, and you know, the other good thing here about the year 2012 is drought is killing the cattails, Darren. So we don't even
no
need
longer hurt our crop.
Right, we don't even need to use a herbicide. Why are we even talking about cattails? It's wiped out.
I'll tell you what, Brian, I don't want to wish this drought on anybody again. So hopefully we never see the drought again and we've got to deal with cattails with some sort of herbicide solution.
Yep, I hear a plane going in the background, and that just reminded me that, you know, quite often cattails do get sprayed with a plane because you can't get in there with a regular sprayer. And if a person is spraying over water, now whether it's cattails or any weed that you're going after, you have to make sure that the product has an aquatic label. So for example, we can spray Roundup on normal ground, but we would have to use Rodeo that has an aquatic label. It's basically the same thing as Roundup, it just has an aquatic label. We'd have to use that if we're spraying over water.
Well, there may be some inert ingredients in that product that are a little safer so we don't hurt if there's any fish or frogs or whatever that may be in that type of ground. So we do have to follow those labels. But the other thing I like about the airplane brand is the principle of I'm going to use the least amount of water I possibly can on the label, and I'm going to use high pressure and get good droplets so I get good coverage on a weed that frankly you really can't stick much herbicide to.
That's right. So cattails, they do have waxy leaves, so you can't stick a whole lot of chemicals on there. You have to have a very concentrated droplet. So if you have lots of water and a low rate of Roundup, just forget about it. You're never even going to touch this stuff. You have to use the highest labeled rate, as high as you possibly can, and the lowest water volume possible. If you do that, you have concentrated droplets, and you actually can control cattails fairly well.
Now, out in the soybean fields, I've noticed over the years that Pursuit and Raptor and Extreme, those types of products, they do actually a decent job on cattails if you're out there early in the year. Now, if they're 10 feet tall, nothing's going to really take them out. But if you can get them when they're just getting started in the spring in a little area out in the field, you can do a pretty good job.
Yeah, in corn, I think Status will give you a little bit of activity, but here again, you want to keep that water volume low and your rate as high as you can possibly go. Cattails, they're tough. It's a perennial weed.
Well, we don't seem to have much problem in cattails in the well-drained parts of the field, but in those lower, wetter parts, that's where good drainage will certainly help, and using the proper solution with a very concentrated droplet to try and stick it on the weed.
Well, that's it for our Weed of the Week, but stay tuned. Iron Talk is coming up next.